So, reality is absolutely one. The history of philosophy is the genesis or coming to be of absolute science, which began in ancient Greece with the search for the arche, the principal source and ground of all things. Up until Descartes, we witness an objective arche, one outside of ourselves. With Descartes' Meditations, 1641, we begin to have a subjective arche, one within ourselves. Consciousness or thought is recognized as reality. With Kant, Fichte, Schelling, and Hegel, we reach the final true arche, the absolute I or concept, and philosophy becomes science, and history comes to an end. It was Plato's divided line which gave the key to the whole process and task. Simply put, there is not one but two regions of reality. That of the senses, the many, separateness, which Plato calls appearance or illusion or the cave, and that of reason, the one, and the good, which Plato calls reality. The good is Plato's arche, and the goal of life is simply to exit the cave, the many, and to know and merge and become one with the good, the one indivisible reality, which in the final analysis alone exists. It is Fichte's absolute I and Hegel's absolute concept, the basis of absolute science, which is nothing but the study of the absolute I becoming conscious of itself. As Hegel says, the absolute, quote, is essentially a result. So then, how does absolute science work? And what is nature's function and place within it? In brief, we start with the introduction. The introduction to science, since science presupposes, quote, that we have overcome the opposition of consciousness and its object, or the world, that we have exited Plato's cave of illusion, multiplicity, and separation, and have realized absolute knowing, or our oneness with reality, or the absolute, and now know that the concept or thought is alone reality. As Hegel says, quote, the concept is alles, or everything. The concept is the absolute truth and all truth, and it is the foundation and essence of logic, nature, and spirit. In a word, we first have the concept as pure thought in logic, and then, because of polarity or the unity of opposites, or because you cannot have one thought, the inner, without the other, thought's opposite, we necessarily and immediately have nature, the outer, externality, extension, or the concept outside of itself as space, time, and matter. Then finally, the unity of the opposites, thought and nature, namely spirit or ourselves. The concept returned into itself and fully actualized. What our religions call God and kingdom come. As Hegel spells this out in the science of logic's final category, the idea which moves from life, nature's highest form, to man, that is finite knowledge, theoretical and practical, our attempts to bring the knower and the world together, to God or kingdom come, to the realization of the truth that the knower, ourselves, and the world or universe are already and eternally one and inseparable. But this is God or kingdom come only in thought. Nature and spirit are necessary to make it a reality. In the end, only spirit remains, having absorbed logic and nature within itself as their unity. Thus, we see that nature, being the concept outside of itself in a state of contradiction, must ultimately set itself aside and completely overcome or cancel its externality, which it does, as we shall see.